Alright guys, welcome back. Today I want to do a little different type of video. I want to do a comparison and then a review of two new tubes that I've just bought. What we have here today is the Schwalbe Aerothan tube and the Tubolito tube. These are both made of a thermoplastic polyurethane type material. Some of the advantages of that are oil and grease resistance, abrasion resistance, elasticity, and in the case of the Schwalbe, it has some transparency too. They both have a similar feel to the material. I can't really tell the difference between the two. They both feel like the same type of material. They both feel like they weigh the same, and we'll get into those weights here in just a second. You can see here the packages that they came in. On the left is the Schwalbe Aerothan package. It's right there on the front. It's advertised the weight is 61 grams. Of course, it's a 700C size. Let's look at the width right here real quick. It's advertised to fit anywhere between a 37 and 50 millimeter width tire. The Tubolito, this one is labeled as a cross or gravel type tube. It's also 700C. Its weight is advertised as 60 grams. And it fits 30 to 47 millimeter width tires. So these two are pretty similar. The Schwalbe has a 40 millimeter stem. It's a plastic type material. By the way, both of these are advertised to be 100% completely recyclable. Just thought I'd throw that in there, something that both of these guys advertise. But yeah, the Schwalbe has a 40 millimeter stem, and it's a plastic type material. It's not threaded. The Tubolito has a 42 millimeter stem. It's also a plastic type material. It's not threaded. The Tubolito is also available in a 60 millimeter stem. Some of the things that both manufacturers claim with this type of tube over a butyl rubber tube are lower rolling resistance, lower weight, and increased puncture resistance. All those compared to just a standard butyl rubber tube. I didn't get a chance to weigh these, but they both claim pretty similar weights, 61 grams here, 60 grams here. I didn't get a chance to weigh these. I tried to weigh them when I pulled them out of the package, but my scale won't go up that high. It showed an overload in the display. There is a little bit of differences in the valve stem, like we looked at earlier here. On the Schwalbe, there's a bit of a shoulder right here. And I did read in some reviews that some people had trouble getting this valve stem to fit in the hole in the rim of their wheel. Over here on the Tubolito, you can see it's just squared off, so it should go in the hole of the rim pretty easily. A couple of days ago, when I unpackaged these, I inflated both to 5 psi. Just so they would kind of hold their shape, and so you'd be able to get a better look and see how they were constructed. Both of them have this joint right here where they're welded. It's kind of a weld seam where it's joined together. The tube is joined together. There's no seam running the entire length of the tube. It's just one tube of plastic that's joined together like so. Same on the Tubolito. A little harder to see the tube seam. On both, the seam is not too far away from the valve stem. When I inflated these, and like I said, it's only about 5 psi, they really do hold their shape. But as you can see, the valve stem is not pointing down the center of the circle like you think it would be. It kind of sticks out to the side. Same with the Tubolito, it sticks out at almost a 90-degree angle. So I thought that was kind of odd. I think once I get them mounted in the tire and wheel, twist it around a little bit, that shouldn't be a problem. Like I said, this is part one, and this is just a comparison so you guys can get an idea of what they look like. My plan is to do a part two, and that'll be more of a review of these tubes. Some of the things I want to review are how supple do they feel, how much less rolling resistance there is compared to the butyl rubber tubes that I was using before. What's the ride quality, that type of thing. Second thing I'm really curious about checking on is air retention. You know, if you inflate your tires and then let the bike sit in the garage for a week, you come back a week later and you have to add more air. It's almost always the case with standard rubber tubes or even a tubeless setup. These are advertised to have a little longer air retention, so I'm curious to see how that's going to work out. I think that would be really important if you're doing like a longer tour over several days. Let's say you're riding the Gap or the Katy Trail and you wanted to maintain consistent air pressure over 2, 3, 5, 6 days of riding, then I think that would be pretty important to you. This may be a less permeable material than rubber. I aired these up 3 days ago, and I can't tell any difference in how they look. They still feel like they have about the same amount of air in them. Another thing I'm really curious about is the impact resistance. Are they prone to flats? Both manufacturers advertise that these are much stronger than standard tubes. On Schwalbe's website, they do some puncture resistance tests, and they advertise that their tube is stronger than the similar brand, and they don't name any names, but it does show an orange bar on the graph. So Schwalbe does advertise that their tube is stronger than this one. Tubolito advertises right there on the package that it is 2 times stronger than a butyl rubber tube. So my experience with tubes is usually if I'm going to get a puncture, it's going to be on the front tire. Maybe because just the front tire picks it up first. But most of the tube failures I've had have been on the rear, and I would attribute that to having more weight on the rear tire, where a tube just failed inside the tire, stretched, popped, whatever, without anything actually penetrating the tire. That's been my experience of running tubes. Let's take a look at what we're going to install these in. First of all, the tires that I'm going to be running. These are WTB Riddlers. They're 700 by 45. They only have about 20 miles on them. I did one test ride in them with some standard rubber tubes, and I thought this would be a good opportunity for me to try something new with these tubes here. The rims that we'll be using are WTB rim. They're 19 millimeter internal width. And as you can see on both, I have installed brand new rim tape. So we don't have to worry about any holes forming in the tubes due to them penetrating through the spoke holes. So brand new rim tape on those, almost brand new tires here. And I'm really excited to get these things mounted up and try them out. Like I said, hopefully there'll be a part 2 to this where I can put some miles on these and see how they really do and be able to compare the two in real world riding. Hopefully I'll be able to get some riding in. It's starting to get hot here where I live, and if I am going to do any riding, it's going to have to be earlier and earlier in the morning. I hope this helped you guys out. If you have any questions, put them in the comments down below. I'll try to answer those. Like I said, there's going to be a review coming later. I just don't know when. And I'll post links to the website for both of these. One thing I forgot to mention was cost. The Tubolito is about $35. The Schwalbe was around $30. I ordered them from 2 different places. I had to pay shipping on the Schwalbe, so really they both ended up costing about the same. So they are a little bit on the expensive side, I know that. But if they turn out to be much better than standard tubes, then it might be worth it. So we will see. Thanks for watching, and we'll talk to you soon.